There we go. It says it's live.
What?
Look at you figuring it out.
I know. If this is what we are, hold on, I'm going to make my phone on silent because I'm going to watch us while watching us while videotaping us. So give me a minute. Let's watch this in the app. Let's see if this like blows the universe apart. Yeah, it says it. There we are. That looks good.
Awesome.
So we are here and live. Figured
What's
it
up,
out,
everybody?
man. Hey, what's going on? It's Talk About It Tuesday.
And we're talking about it on Tuesday in separate places.
I figured it out. I was going to say that if I get this figured out, it's like the greatest technological advancement in the Niesman team in our entire history. But I feel like that's unfair because I feel like you're much more tech savvy than I am.
Maybe.
And so it's our very first virtual meeting together. If you are one of the people listening to us, thank you for joining us on Talk About It Tuesday. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of breaking down commercial real estate. But if somebody can please float me a note on Facebook, our post here, and let me know that your sound is okay. Because Jerry has his phone and his computer, and I have my phone and my computer, and we're talking about it on Zoom, on Facebook, and I'm watching in here. Hey, hi, Lori. Thanks for messaging me. If you can let me know that you can hear me and like all thumbs up to us, and we will get down to it in just a couple minutes. Jerry, why don't you tell people while I'm looking at the thread here, so everybody knows I'm looking down at my phone. We are going to be talking about commercial real estate investing and tell everybody who we are and why we're apart. Well, I'm checking out the tech. Go.
All right. So Jerry and Rachel Niesman of the Niesman team at Keller Williams Realty. And so we're doing Talk About It Tuesday, which we do every Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. And today we are, so we've been doing a multi-part series on investing in real estate, all the different types. So we did kind of an intro to real estate investing, and then we've talked about investing in residential real estate. And now today we're talking about investing in commercial real estate, which is a very different animal from residential real estate.
And I have learned so much today. I have to tell you, I'm really excited. And I haven't told you this. I figured I would tell you live in front of everybody. I found a commercial building I want to buy. Like in doing all my research, I'm on the perfect place for the Niesman team's next commercial real estate investment and purchase. I'm ready to go. Let me see. Hold on. The cap rate is 8%. I have notes. I learned so much.
So we are in different locations today because I have been in Venice since about 9 o'clock this morning, showing properties. I've got clients in town for 2 days, and they're looking at only new construction all over Venice.
Which is one of your specialties,
yes.
Even up in Venice.
Yep. So I sold new homes in Venice for two years. And it looks like they're just finishing up looking at the models in this last community that we were at today.
Did they find something they like?
Yeah, a couple of them. So they may pop their heads in and say bye here. We were finishing up at the last community, and the sales guy here was nice enough to.
Oh, that's nice. Give you an office to work out
of? Yeah, he gave me an office to do our video out of and talk to you guys at.
Hi, new clients. We love you. So, and if anybody watching us sees people pop in on me, I'm at home with child. So you may see Trey pop in and say hello. And tell me if you can, give me a quick minute. I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to link over to our Facebook event, this stream, and then I'm going to come back to it. We're about 3 minutes away from getting into the nitty gritty of breaking down commercial real estate, which, like I said, real estate investing, which I learned so much about today. I'm really excited about this topic. I got excited about it in the way that I don't traditionally get excited over residential real estate investing. So I don't know, maybe that's just something that thrills me. I know that we've dealt with it a lot before. Jerry, tell me, you said that you're up showing clients. What has give me a 1 minute market update. What does the Southwest Florida real estate market look like? Is it buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? What's going on? How are things shaking up? We have spikes in numbers. Have you seen a slowdown? What's the situation?
The market is crazy right now.
Tell me, specifically speaking.
I mean, inventory is still low.
Which means what? Break it down.
It means that it is.
Inventory is a house. Like,
So,
there's not
yeah,
enough homes on the market.
There are more buyers than there are sellers right now.
Okay.
So new construction is a big option because the builders are building new homes. And when inventory goes down, when there's fewer homes coming on the market than there are homes going off the market, meaning people are buying them, meaning less people are listing them than people buying them. Prices go up typically, which they are, and it makes new homes more attractive. Because if you can buy a brand new home for the same price as a used one, why would you buy a used one?
Let's get started. Like I said, I'm really excited. I'm sorry, you guys, that my glasses are so blue. But I have to have them on. I have perfect vision, and seriously, I just went to.
She thinks she does.
Yo, I was just at the eye doctor like 4 weeks ago. No. What are we calling it? BC, before coronavirus. So I was
before COVID.
Or before COVID. Yes. So I was at the eye doctor a month BC, and he literally told me, he used the word perfect vision. I can see perfectly up close. Listen, I may be about 13 months away from being 40 years old, but my eyes do not show any sign of wearing down. Up close, far away, I can see, but I get terrible headaches and migraines from being in front of screens too much all day long. So I wear blue light reducing glasses, which we have blue lights in our home. We have blue lights on my screens right now, so I have to have them on. Sorry, it's like, I feel like I have like robot eyes, but oh well, we'll deal with it. Talk to me, Jerry Niesman, about commercial real estate investing. So it's a different, like you said, it's a very different animal than residential real estate investing. And I wrote down a list of what we're going to talk about today, the order that we're going to talk about it. I'm going to keep an eye if I'm looking down at your questions, if people are watching us and have live questions. And we're going to start with types of commercial properties, the pros and cons of choosing commercial over like residential or other real estate investing types. We're going to go over some of the lingo. It could get a little bit funky. I feel like it's the Wild West of real estate investing. Am I wrong?
It really is. There's a lot less government regulation and government intervention in it because I guess I don't really know the true because, but I feel like it's because they feel like if you have the money to play in the commercial real estate arena, you should know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, you do have the money to be able to afford to have people helping you that do.
Yes.
So, you really, it's commercial real estate more than any other real estate investment arena. You really need a team of people to help make sure that you do everything properly. You need a real estate attorney to help with the contracts and everything. You need your realtor to help you make sure that the math makes sense, to help make sure that these things are what they are, and to help you understand how to do those things. Because not only should, yes, your realtor should be helping you out, but ultimately it's your money, it's your responsibility. And you need to make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into, but you need the team of people to help make sure that you understand and to help be able to explain everything to you.
So true, because we're talking big boy money now. It's, we're going to get into the pros and cons of commercial real estate investing over residential real estate investing. But one of the cons would be you step up with some green, but we're going to get into that. Yeah.
It's a pro and a con. I mean, if you've got a lot of money that you need to put somewhere, that you want a good solid place to put a lot of money, it can be a good place to put it. But on the con side, you're dealing with a lot of money. And if you make a mistake, it tends to be a big mistake.
Yikes. So welcome to the Wild West, everybody. We're going to start, and yeah, at the end, we're going to talk about financing options and the experts that you need on your team to start commercial real estate investing. Let's get started at the beginning. I'm not sure that I earlier today when I started note taking or the people watching know what different types of commercial properties exist. So I'm going to give you a type and you give me like a, for example, okay? So retail and residential. So where would be, okay, let's talk in the Fort Myers, Southwest Florida. Let's talk, Northport to Bonita. Let's not go down to Naples or up to like Sarasota or anything, but let's stay in like the Southwest Florida, like Fort Myers, Cape Coral, North Fort Myers stuff. Give me for example of a good retail or restaurant area.
I mean, there's a ton of them. You got Bell Tower, you've got Colonial and 6 Mile, you've got Daniels in 6 Mile.
Right.
Anywhere along I-75.
Sure.
Any of your major interchanges, Colonial, Daniels, Alico, Bonita, any of those major interchanges are good spots for those things. Those probably more restaurant than retail per se. Downtown Fort Myers, the Fort Myers Beach area right around the Times Square. I mean, there's a ton of them, but anywhere that there's big.
And I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like most people know what a retail space looks like. Most people know what a restaurant space. But if you look at like Gulf Coast Town Center, where there's a ton of buildings packed together, you could invest in one of those buildings and then rent it out to somebody to put in a clothing store, retail store, jewelry store, whatever, or build up their new restaurant, their new dream, and you could get tenants in there. Right? Good.
Yep.
What about office buildings? Obviously, office buildings. And by the way, that's what I want to buy. The one that I found today in my research, I found commercial real estate investment that I want to buy. I'm going to send you the details on it later. And so office buildings.
Yep. So office buildings. I mean, I feel like that one's pretty self-explanatory too.
But
a lot of times.
Talk to me about, would that be multi-unit versus standalone office buildings? Is there any difference between those, or is it all together?
Yeah, no, there's differences between them. I mean, just like retail and restaurants. I mean, you've got, for example, at Colonial and 6 Mile, you've got the strip next to Walmart where you've got like BJ's and you've got a Bell's Outlets that's there. But then out as like a standalone building out in the parking lot, you've got the Chick-fil-A, and you've got a Burger King, and you've got a Culver's. Like those are standalone restaurants.
Right.
You got across the street, you got Applebee's, which is a standalone building by itself.
Sure.
So
same thing with offices, where you can have a big building. I know a lot of smaller,
like medical,
like doctor's offices. That's exactly what I was thinking, where they share. It's like, here's my dietitian's office, and then here's an eye doctor's office, and then they rent the same. But then there's also office space where it's just
right, where it could be like one, like one company, for example. I mean, you can use like a builder.
Right.
Like that's even another example on 6 Mile. You've got like Lennar rent space. Their corporate office is in a bigger office building that's shared units. Like, they've got their own part of the building, but then next door, they got another company and another company on the other side. And then down the road, you've got D.R. Horton that built their own corporate headquarters that is a standalone building.
Oh, perfect.
So that's an example.
What about industrial properties?
So industrial properties are more like
warehouses,
warehouse type. Yeah, you've got, although there are a bunch of like industrial, what they call like commercial condos.
Okay.
Where it's like they can be smaller or larger units, where it's like maybe like a small office up front and then a big warehouse in the back.
Okay.
A lot of breweries are like,
Oh, yeah.
like
Super trendy right now.
Gateway Brewery over there in Gateway. That's what they're in. They're in an office or like a commercial, almost industrial condo.
Don't we have, to correct me if I'm wrong, we live in the North Fort Myers area. Aren't there industrial like a flooring guy is going to share building with, like, next door is the window guy, and next door is that what they're talking about?
A lot of times, yeah.
Okay.
Where it's like a big building with a bunch of smaller units within that you can rent, or you can have just a huge, we've helped a local roofer buy an industrial space where it was like an 8,000 square foot building that 2,500 square feet was office space / showroom. And then in the back was their warehouse where they store all of their most
supplies.
often sold materials. And so you had like a 5,500 square foot warehouse in the back. And so a lot of that,
I learned this last week on our residential real estate investing Talk About It Tuesday. There's like multifamily units. What was the number? 5 and above. If you have anything more, so apartment housing.
If there's more than 5 residential units. Well, it's residential, but it's commercial residential. It's commercial properties used for commercial and commercial used as residential, zoned as like multifamily residential.
Cool. So that's considered commercial real estate investing. You can invest. Yeah. We have a client who does this. This is what they look for. Is they look for apartments is their preference in investing.
Right. And you can go anywhere from like a small, 12 unit apartment complex in, like there's some older, smaller apartment complex, like kind of in the downtown area.
Yeah.
To like they just built a couple of years ago, and I think they're building another apartment complex right next door at in the Forum.
Cool.
Like I think that's what they're building, right? Like they just built the one a couple of years ago, and they've got another one that I'm pretty sure that's what they're building right next to it now. Is what's going up there is another apartment complex, and somebody owns that. It might be a company.
Sure.
It might be a big national apartment complex company, but it could be a small group of investors too.
Cool. I know we're going to talk about this probably more next week. Next week's Talk About It Tuesday, for those who mark it on your calendar, is the market update. It's the first Tuesday of the month. We're going to review the previous batch of numbers and talk about month over month and year over year real estate transaction numbers. Is it Lee County? Is that who we pull? Is that, I think
no, it's our
board.
Florida MLS, the Royal Palm Coast. So
those
it
are the numbers that we review.
Lee, Hendry, and Collier counties.
Perfect. And so we're going to go over those numbers in depth and look at how, I think is it the second full month of, we're reporting on numbers.
April, May. June. So this is the third month.
So this is the complete numbers for May, which April and May were the 2 months of like full legit quarantine, right? Everything opened up June 1st.
Oh, yeah.
Opened up June 1st. So this is like we're going to review the numbers from the full month of like quarantine Southwest Florida and see how it is. We're going to talk about trends that we've seen over the last 4 weeks, and then up to the minute what we see, between now and then, and what we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks. So next week's Talk About It Tuesday is State of the Market, because it's the beginning of the month. And then we're going to continue our series with our final real estate investing strategy, which is land, which we will talk more about, but it's our final type of commercial real estate investing, which is you can invest in commercial land or like farmland and stuff like that. Is farmland, okay, I've heard you talk to investors about agricultural land versus like what, we'll get to it next week, but farmland and commercial, because you can't just buy land and put whatever you want on it, right?
I mean, you can buy land and you can put whatever you want as long as it fits the zoning requirements, sure.
We'll
but there are
week.
requirements. But yeah, that's next week.
So commercial land, yes. All right, so let's talk about some of the pros and cons
2 weeks
now.
from now.
2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, not next week. Next week is the numbers. 2 weeks from now is investing in land. Let's go over pros and cons of commercial real estate investing versus other real estate investing strategies, most of which is we're comparing to residential real estate. So why would somebody consider investing in commercial real estate? And I have some of your notes here that you left behind for me. The first one you listed out was potential for greater cash flow and reduced risk versus like single family homes with one tenant. So you can make more money, right?
You can. Well, you're dealing with larger dollar amounts. So you're dealing with larger dollar amounts. I mean, if you're investing $5 million in a property, then you would expect to make a significantly larger dollar amount than you would on a $200,000 purchase.
Can I give you,
while the percentages may or may not be better or worse, the dollar amounts would be higher.
Can I give you a little analogy to make it make sense to me, common man who doesn't deal with this all the time? Is it like I can go, we like to gamble. It's no secret. We go to Vegas. We got married there. It's our favorite city to travel to. It's like if you step up to a blackjack table with $10 minimums and play $10, you can win that amount back. But if you step up and play with 1,000, you got to play big in order to win big, right? So
correct. You walk into the high rollers area.
Right.
Why am I echoing again on your end?
I don't know.
Like,
if you hear an echo, let me know. If you're listening to us and hear an echo, let us know. Are you better?
I don't know.
God, I hate tech.
Yeah, now it's gone.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So so you walk up to a $1,000 minimum table and you have the ability to lose $1,000 in one hand, but you also have the ability to make, it depends on what their payout is, but if, on a blackjack, if they're paying 2 to 1, you hit a blackjack and you make $2,000 for your $1,000 bet. On commercial real estate, if you are dealing in larger numbers, you're going to be dealing in larger numbers on the on the income side too.
What about the potential for reduced risk? Are you saying like, oh, okay, so if you're let's compare an 8 apartment complex. Do they have that? Do they have like 8 units? If you're gonna do 8 units instead of a duplex, well, because we talked about house hacking a lot last week. So let's say you're gonna house hack a duplex and you're gonna live in one side and you're gonna make money off the other side. Well, if your tenant in your one side pieces out of town and leaves,
you have no income.
And
if you're house hacking an 8-unit apartment complex, well, you would have to get a commercial lease or a commercial type loan for it. But let's just say you're doing that and you're living in one unit, you've got 7 other units that you're renting. So if one of your tenants moves out, you still have income coming from the 6 other units. Right. You just have one down.
Cool.
So that's that's the most common scenario when you're dealing with multi-tenant buildings.
What about you have here as a second pro is that tenants may be more likely to take care of your property because tenants are business owners,
it's their place
right?
of business. Well, yeah, and it's their place of business, and if they are a customer-facing business where they have people walking in and out of their doors all the time, it's likely that they're going to keep it looking good because they want their customers to see a good-looking business.
Right. And you don't have that guarantee in residential. I feel like I feel like it is less risky to have businesses that are investing. It's like, you know, they're stepping up with their own money. If they're not successful, then they fail
and
everything.
Right. Well, and
they have everything to lose.
The other thing too, many times, and we'll get into like build out and stuff like that, but many times they have put tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the size of the space, into their own build out. Like, you're providing them the structural walls, but a lot of times you're allowing them to do the, you know, they're doing the decor, they're painting, a lot of times they're paying for the flooring, they're paying for a lot of customization and modification to suit their business inside that space.
And it's your building.
Correct. And so they want, you know, they want to take care of that stuff.
Cool. I also have as a pro is longer leases to stabilize cash flow, and then ease of eviction process if tenants don't pay. I guess it's easier. Is it easier to like kick people out, kick a business out if they're not paying?
Well, it's so, you know, you are, when you're dealing with residential, you're dealing with somebody's primary residence.
Sure.
And so again, you're dealing with more government regulation. And the government does not like
making
landlords.
People homeless.
Yeah, the government doesn't like other people making people homeless.
Oh. Fair enough.
So there are certain rules and regulations, and it's going to vary state by state, county by county, city by city. But in general, yes, it's typically, you know, and this is more of an attorney question than a realtor question, but yes, in general, I would say it is easier to remove a business than it is to remove somebody.
Well, talk to me about the other side of it, though. So you say that a longer lease, and I think it's something that I learned about in our last Talk About It Tuesday when we talked about residential real estate investing. I learned you can only do a 1-year lease in Florida on residential, but on commercial real estate leases, you go long term.
Correct.
How long term are we talking in the Wild West?
I mean, I've seen 1-year leases, but it's more common to do 3, 5, and 10, 7, you know, somewhere in that ballpark.
Cool.
You know, but the other thing that we didn't talk about, because it wasn't necessarily relevant to residential, is most commercial leases have an escalation clause.
Oh, what does that mean?
So the rent goes up automatically every year. So you may sign up at, you know, and depending on the space and what is typical of that particular type of space that you're renting, you know, it may be that you agree to $15 a square foot in year one, but there may be a 10% or a 15% escalation clause that says that rent is going to go up 10% a year.
Sure.
So now your $15 a square foot just went up to $16.50 in year 2, and then it goes up another 10% in year 3, and it goes up every year. So you can sign, and it doesn't matter what the market's doing. It's going up regardless of of what happens with the market.
I feel like I've read or heard places that there's a big call to suspend that for this year because of the COVID situation.
I don't know.
But I don't know that I've heard anything been handed down like on a federal level restricting it, but I know a lot of people are saying like, yo, how with residential as well, where people are like, how am I supposed to get an increase on my rent when I've lost my job or when I, you know, all of the situation. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, and you know, the question with that too becomes, you know, the landlords have not been paid on some of these,
right?
You know, for the tenants that lost their jobs and that sort of thing, the tenants have no income to be able to pay, but now the landlords sometimes are still required to pay their mortgage.
Right. Sure.
And they've been paying their mortgage payment because the bank is not allowing them to not make their mortgage payment, but then they're not getting rent. And so now you've got the landlord's supposed to be on the hook for that. And especially in residential real estate, how do you, as the landlord, you don't, like when you're talking, forbearance or whatever, some of these programs that some of the mortgage companies are offering to primary residence homeowners, yeah, sure, you don't make your mortgage payment for 4 or 5 months, but they can throw it onto the end of the loan.
Sure.
Well, how do you do that when your lease is up in 3 months?
Sure.
How do you collect that money? So there's a lot of questions with the current situation, and in residential real estate especially, and investment properties. But when you're talking commercial, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what the real estate market's doing. Where in residential real estate, you've got a 1-year lease. Well, if rents all of a sudden drop significantly, which it rarely, if ever, happens.
Sure.
But let's just say rents even drop a little bit, you may not be able to raise your rent on your current tenant.
Right.
Or they're going to move out and go somewhere else. And then you got to drop your rent for the new person. Where in commercial real estate, you have a 7-year lease in place. It's already guaranteed. There's no coming back and renegotiating. They've signed for it regardless. So while rents may be lower in the building next door, you're still going to get more and it's a lot more expensive for, like, what does it cost to move down the road in an apartment versus, I mean, I used to move apartments when I was renting apartments back in the day. I used to move apartments every year because I could go to the new building down the street that they just built and I could get it, this building that I'm living in wants to raise my rent $100 a month. That building's offering me the first 3 months free, and I'm going to be in a brand new building and they're going to charge me, well, it only cost me $800 to move. But when you're talking moving a business, it's a lot more expensive. So they're not going to move for $1 a square foot less typically.
Right. I have for the fourth and final pro of commercial real estate investing is less competition amongst other investors. So like, I know I watch you all day, every day, look for our residential investment clients. I've never seen it not hot, where it's like the moment something comes on, it's gone. People sit and they stalk it and they watch it. But because of the higher costs, right? And not as many people are doing it.
Right. Well, there's less people that can do it because of the higher cost of entry.
Well, and I think the lack of experience. I mean, like I said,
it's scary.
I sat down to take my own notes, and it's a whole different ball of wax. It is the Wild West. It's crazy. You can't even, you have to search for it differently. I mean, everything's different.
Well, I mean, there's not even a central location to search for stuff.
That's wild.
That's the Wild
West. Like tumbleweeds. I'm gonna like clip art in some tumbleweeds.
I've got a client right now that called me and said, hey, can you help me find this type of property? And like, when you got a client that calls you and says, hey, I want to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Southeast Cape Coral with a pool, and I don't want to spend more than $300,000. Well, there's like one place that you go to look for that. You go to the MLS. Sure. I mean, yeah, there's an occasional for sale by owner or whatever that you might find on Zillow, or you might find on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or whatever. Like, you might find 1 or 2 stragglers here or there that aren't in the MLS, but for the most part, they're all there. When you're talking commercial real estate, some are in the MLS, but not very many.
Sure.
There are other similar listing services for commercial real estate, but I mean, there's 4 of them that I can think of off the top of my head. And some commercial realtors use one, others use another, because they all cost money to list properties in, and they're expensive because you're dealing in expensive properties. And so they typically only list them in one, while there's 4 different places. And then some of them don't spend the money to list them anywhere, and you just find them on their website.
Sure.
So like, I've got a client looking for commercial property right now. I've probably looked at 15 different sites to try and find, and everywhere I find different properties.
And which is a great segue into some of the cons of commercial real estate investing over traditional or residential real estate investing. you have here 4 different ones. The first one was it just takes longer. Like it's not as fast. Like you need more research, you know, you need time to research, time to find and approve tenants, like that it takes longer to do. It's not a fast process. Nothing about it is faster. You can pick something. If you got cash to invest in residential real estate, you could be closing in what, 3 weeks?
Well, if you've got cash to buy a $3 million building, you could be closing in 3 weeks if you want to. But there's typically more due diligence to do. You've got there's more inspections to do. There's
which we'll get to. We'll get to like all the people that's needed, but it just takes time. It's longer. It's a longer investment. You have to. It's like patience is key.
I'm talking the Wild West. The thing that I about fell out of my chair laughing. The first commercial deal we did, like when you submit your original offer, it was type up a Word doc. Like there's not even a contract. It's like, here's what we want to offer.
Here's what we want to. That's crazy. See, that's wild to me. That's absolutely wild to me.
So like, there are some contracts, but they're not nearly as standardized as with residential.
I mean, all the residential realtors that are on our page or watching, you guys all know there's a few standard contracts. Everybody wants to use the same
addendums.
1 or 2. Yeah, it all looks the same. So of course, another con would be it's expensive. It's not cheap. It's just like the blackjack analogy. If you have a little bit of money, you can step up and invest it in smaller investments, especially like the house hacking. Residential real estate investing is a great start, but you need capital. You need money, typically excellent credit, good credit.
For commercial,
You need good, I mean, you just do. It's more expensive. Plus, I can imagine the maintenance cost on it is so much higher.
Well, that's one of the other pros. Remember, we talked about last week a little bit is, and one of the terms, the CAM, which is common area, it stands for common area maintenance, is kind of like an HOA.
Right.
In terms of people comparing residential, and that fee typically is paid by the tenant.
Sure. Once you get a tenant in place.
Correct.
But if you buy commercial property, like say you go
until you have a tenant in place, you're on the hook. Yeah, you're putting that bill. And
if you're talking about getting a not perfect residential property, a real estate investment, or a not perfect commercial real estate investment, your repairs are the latter is going to be more expensive to get it like sale ready.
Yep.
All right. So what else do we got? We got as another con, a greater chance of legal issues. Like we said state regulations are, rules and regulations and things like that. But when you start getting into commercial real estate investing, it's time to get out, like break out, which if you got the money to be investing in commercial real estate, you can probably afford an attorney.
Yeah. And you should have an attorney because number one, again, you pretty much write your own documents.
Right.
So like contracts and stuff like that, there's a lot more flexibility and leeway as to what you can and cannot write in there. You definitely typically want to have an attorney look it over to make sure that, that you're covering all your bases and that you're protected. And then in terms of dealing with tenants, you got to write up leases. You need an attorney. It's good to have an attorney write up the lease, or at least if you're going to use a commercial lease that you found online, at least before you have everybody sign it, you have an attorney look it over and make sure that this, that this is legit and that there's nothing left out that you're going to leave yourself open to. And again, you're dealing in a lot of your potential tenants, if you're dealing like especially retail or restaurant space or whatever, they're going to have customers. Like your tenant is going to have customers in the door, and they're a lot of times, if they get hurt or slip or fall or whatever, are they going to go after just Applebee's, or are they going to go after the person that owns the business too?
Owns the building.
You know, that owns the building, not just that owns the restaurant. You know, they can name anybody and everybody they can try.
Can and will.
So yeah, you have that, you know, you do have a little additional legal obligation there as well.
And then, so, I mean, which is not dissimilar from our fourth and final con of commercial real estate investing, which is rules and regulations, and the fact that it's the Wild West means you need a team.
Yes.
Which can cost money. I mean, it goes into the cost and stuff like that. And it's, you know, it's one thing that us as like Jerry and Rachel Niesman as husband and wife have learned along our way, which is it's always beneficial for us to stay in our own lane of expertise and to hire out people, especially when we get started talking into investing strategies. We don't make those decisions. I mean, we may say like, oh, you know, we want to buy a commercial real estate. We want to buy this, but then we defer to the experts when we are not in our lane. Jerry's in the real estate lane, but when we need investment advice, we have a financial advisor. When we need accounting advice, we have my mom, and we love you. But she's a CPA, so I go to her with big boy accounting questions that's above and beyond my financial capabilities. And so, but you do need a team. You're at that point where you're going to want people around you, which can get costly. If you are dipping your toes into real estate investing, residential is basically you, and call up Jerry, and you guys can start looking at places right away. Everything's very easy to figure out, understand, research, and you don't need as big of a team with residential real estate investing. With commercial, you're going to start needing more people, which isn't a bad thing, because the more you can call up people for their expertise, the better off you are. You just do your job really good, and then hire other people to do their job really good. Right. Let's move on to some lingo. Let's move on to some. So in my research, I came up with some terms for commercial real estate investing that seemed different or unique that I wanted you to help break down for me and like explain it like I'm five kind of terms. And what does build out mean? I think you've talked about it already once today, but what does build out mean?
So building out the space. You know, these
like the inside of the space?
The inside of the space.
Okay.
Yeah. So they don't like typically when you like, let's say you own a flooring store and you want to go lease a space in a strip mall somewhere.
Okay. And I'm the building owner. I
Correct.
Own the strip mall.
You own the strip mall and I own a flooring company.
Okay.
And I come to you and say, hey, I want to lease this space inside your strip mall.
Okay, cool.
A lot of times you're going to provide me with a blank rectangular space.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
There's no partition walls. Or there might be some partition walls, but the majority of the partition walls probably aren't there. There's no like desk. There's no lobby area. There's no like showroom area. There's none of that. You know, for example, like over by the movie theater.
Okay.
Where they're like redoing that whole shopping center.
Sure.
And most of those spaces are empty right now. If you go look in the windows of those empty spaces,
yes,
it's a blank rectangle. A lot of times it's just raw drywall that's like taped but not textured, no paint on the walls, no nothing. You go look at a space and you see raw walls and you're like, well, what the heck is this going to be?
Right.
Well, it's that way because it can be anything.
Right. Okay.
So a lot of times, and a lot of people don't realize that you can negotiate some of this stuff. Sometimes you can negotiate some money towards build out or whatever with the landlord.
So as a landlord, I need to be prepared to say yes, you can, you can, or no, you can't.
Yes. So as a landlord, you're going to want to know what it is that your tenant is going to do for their build out, what they want to do, and you're going to have to approve it or say no, but can you do this instead or whatever. You're going to have to review that sort of thing.
Okay.
But the majority of the time, the tenant foots the bill for a large, if not all, of the cost of it. So they're building in your space.
So I think my next term, my next lingo is capital improvement. I feel like that's similar to build out, right? It's just capital improvements.
So capital improvements are typically the building owner's expense, which would be like structural improvements to the building. So does it need a new roof? Does it need new air conditioner? Does a parking lot need to be resurfaced? Things like that. Does the exterior of the building need to be repainted? Things like that are going to be more like capital improvement. Are you going to add on to the building or, whatever?
So my next lingo is capitalization rate or cap rate, which I wrote down the official definition. It says income of property divided by total value of property. But it's what? It's like it's a number, it's a percentage that gives you a rough estimate.
It's your income divided by the actual value of the property. Like is kind of similar to ROI or return on investment, except that return on investment is your return, your income compared to what you actually paid for the property.
Oh, I see.
So the property may be like, let's say you bought this property 10 years ago. It may now, maybe you paid $500,000 for a building 10 years ago. Well, now it's worth $800,000.
Okay.
So your cap rate would be lower because the income versus value, the cap rate would be lower than your ROI because your ROI is the 500 that you invested in the property.
You haven't asked yet, but just so you know, the commercial property that I've decided we're going to buy tomorrow is only $299. Isn't that exciting?
Wow. Okay.
And it's
you said it's an 8% cap rate?
8% cap rate. And it has it's zoned, it will allow for both commercial and residential. It's like it's set up as an office on the bottom floor with like office and kitchen.
Condos up above?
It's just a loft.
Okay.
It's a loft up above, but it's all like ADA accessible, parking lot. It's cute. I'll show you. I can't wait. I might go see it tomorrow with Bubba. Get our first commercial real estate investment under our belt. I think it's an awesome opportunity. So you mentioned CAM, common area maintenance.
Yep.
All right, what's that? You said it's like an HOA, but commercial?
You moved something, now I'm echoing again.
Is it my clip from my hair that I'm playing with?
I don't know. It must be because I don't hear it echoing anymore.
Okay, perfect. Listen, snap it a couple of times and it'll be fixed. Talk to me about CAM.
All right, so CAM stands for Common Area Maintenance, and that is the maintenance of the common areas.
Okay.
Pretty self-explanatory. And a large majority of the time, that is a part of the tenant's responsibility. So let's say you are negotiating a lease with your tenant and you may be negotiating for $15 a square foot, but the CAM may be an additional $3 and call it 25 cents a square foot.
I see.
So they base it on the square footage they break it down to the square footage of the property. So if it's a 5,000 square foot building and it costs $15,000 a year to maintain that building, then you've got $3 a square foot per year.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Yes. You can explain it to me on our new commercial property we're buying tomorrow.
Yeah. So basically, it's just the budgeted cost. So you're typically your property manager, if you have one that runs,
which we're going to talk about them as part of the team.
Yep. So especially on larger buildings, you may have a property manager that manages the maintenance, that overall manages the facility. So they'll handle your leases, they'll handle all that stuff. And so part of your CAM cost is paying them. but they will run a budget on what do you have to set aside every year for air conditioning costs and repairs, for, just for regular upkeep and maintenance. So they'll run all those budgets, and you'll have a projected cost and estimate, and then that fee you can a lot of times pass on to your tenants.
I want to keep us on track because time flies when we're having fun. Can you believe it's 4:55 already? I want to move on to just kind of, and maybe when we are done with our end of real estate investment strategies, maybe in 3 weeks, maybe we should see if we can get together with one of our amazing mortgage people and have them talk to us about this more in depth. Because there are different financing options when you're talking commercial loans, traditional commercial mortgages. You could do like small business SBA loans, small business loans, conduit loans, soft and hard loans, which I don't know anything about. But let's talk about the team, because this is one last, I want everybody to know going into, if you're thinking about commercial real estate investing, who you need on your team to make sure you're doing it successfully. So you need a commercial realtor slash or broker, your favorite person. So we do it, just I know that it's us putting it on. So obviously, we have experience in it. And so you need the Niesmans as your, or your favorite commercial real estate or them. But then also an accountant and an attorney that have an idea and understanding of commercial real estate as well. So who else? What about
potentially a property manager?
So that's one's purchase, but before you even buy.
Inspector. Well, you might want your property manager to come look at the property.
Oh, that's really clever. I wouldn't have even thought of that. Yes.
You may want them to come look at the property and also look at the management numbers of who, the company who's currently managing it. Is there deferred maintenance that you're not aware of because they've been running the CAM at $2 a square foot, and realistically this particular building might need to be run at $4 a square foot, and so now you might have to run it at $6 a square foot to make up for the shortfall on the maintenance because you've got less time. So you might want a property manager to come look at it. You definitely want an inspector to come look at it. And a lot of times you'll need multiple inspectors that inspect different things. I
was wondering about that. Now, I know that we have, as a part of the Niesman team, our group of other professionals. We have title people we love, mortgage people we love, inspectors that we love. Would our inspectors, or do our typical inspectors...
Hold on 1 second. Give me 2 seconds. Problem. I'm going to go say bye real quick.
I want to tell everybody while Jerry's away, that if you have any questions about this or residential real estate investing or anything at all real estate, make sure you call, text, message us. Jerry's cell phone number is 239-201-9583. I'm going to type it here in the messages and drop it down. Every week we do Talk About It Tuesday, 4 p.m. on Facebook Live. Typically, Jerry and I are together as we start to be more in the world post-quarantine. The likelihood of us being apart is a reality, but I hope you guys are enjoying it, and let us know if there's topics you want to talk about. If you have any other questions, Jerry, you can also email him, jerryniesman@gmail.com, JerryNiesman. You can see it like right wherever you see Jerry's name. We're on Jerry's page. So you can send him a Facebook message. If you have questions, let us know, and we're happy to chat about it. And we work in the Wild West for our clients. Can I just also point out that we don't just help with commercial real estate investing. We also help small business owners or business owners find their space. We can work with you if you're a buyer as well, or
a tenant.
Thank you. Lessee.
Lessee.
Lessee. If you're a lessee,
Lessor.
Well, on
either one doesn't matter.
We we're happy to help you. We help a lot of businesses here in town find a new space. If you're currently in a space and you don't want to be and you want to sell or whatever you guys need, let us know. We're here to help. And so we were talking about inspectors. Does our real estate inspector,
our residential inspector,
that, you know what I'm saying? You know with it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
Have a different person?
It depends on what it is. So, like if you're looking, I mean, you got to think about the fact that every single building that you ever walk into has, you could purchase and would need an inspection. I mean, like Publix.
Right.
Like you could own the building and have Publix as a tenant.
Right.
And you could be buying a building where Publix is a tenant.
Right.
And you got like refrigeration units and stuff like that. Like
I saw a list of miscellaneous businesses, like an ice skating rink, and I'm like,
right.
How? Like, how do you even like evaluate that? Right. How do you inspect an ice skating rink? But you're right. Like at the Twisty Cone in North Fort Myers, like how do you evaluate an ice cream cone?
So it really depends on what it is. There's a lot more specialized inspectors for stuff, for commercial real estate. So you need to.
On the list that I saw in my research, it also listed. Right. It also
like you got to do
appraisers.
Is
that something we need to know and have in our wheelhouse of our team, or is that something that the state does?
No, your lender may send an appraiser, but think about the fact that you are asking someone to appraise. You're talking very, very different types of properties.
Sure. It's an ice cream cone.
And, so there's a lot of variance and things like that. And so, having an appraiser to be able to, you may, and also even in determining purchase price, where like the seller may have one number in mind.
Sure.
You have a different number in mind, and maybe you bring an appraiser in. Maybe you guys agree that, hey, you know what, we're going to bring in 2 appraisers and get their opinions to compare. I mean, we've done that on residential. I mean, we had a house that, it was the most expensive house in the neighborhood ever.
Right.
And, how do you put a value on the stuff that's in it? And so sometimes you might need to bring an appraiser in or multiple appraisers in. Maybe the buyer brings an appraiser, the seller brings an appraiser, and you agree that you split the number in the middle, or you bring in a third independent appraiser that neither one of them knows to make a third determination and, kind of split the difference or figure it out. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but an appraiser is definitely somebody that you want to have in your circle of.
What I have here also, not just an accountant with commercial real estate experience, but a tax expert, because I would imagine it's a whole different ball of wax in terms of taxes too, right? And that's not always the same person.
Right.
Building engineers.
Maybe.
Architects.
Yep.
Maybe.
depending on what you want to do. I mean, like that, the roofer that we did, they came in and they wanted to, the front area was already built out as an office space. The back area was already built out as a warehouse, but they wanted to open up. So there's like firewall requirements between office space and warehouse space. And they wanted to, the office space up front was 2 floors, and they wanted to add a second floor over some of the warehouse space.
Okay.
And build more offices up there. And so they wanted to be able to cut a hole through that firewall. So you had to have architects and engineers involved in setting up how the second floor in that over the warehouse area is going to be supported, in enclosing it to make sure it's got the proper fire code ratings, there's a ton of stuff that goes into that. So yeah, architects, engineers, potentially.
And then even after you close, you may need marketing experts who can help market your, it's worth nothing. It's an expense, right? If you don't have a tenant in there. So you marketing people working for you, leasing or property management people working for you, and maintenance for the building. So I think it's a cool option. And as soon as I dropped in the message, we're going to kick off here. I know it's pushing 5 p.m. and you need to get back to clients and work. And I need to go cook mac and cheese for dinner. And but I'm going to send you a link to this one that I'm interested in. Maybe we go check it out tomorrow. Maybe, what do you think? What if we try and go preview it for me because I want to buy it? What we should do it for one of our tours this week if we can.
Yeah, we can do that.
You want to go to our commercial real estate investment?
Thursday or Friday?
That's what I was thinking. Let me look at our calendar so we can tell everybody when we're going to be in there, when I'm going to try and set it up. And anything else that you want to add? Anything that we've gone over?
I don't think so. Are there any questions people are asking that I need to answer?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right.
A lot of good information, and thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I know we've had a lot of people join us today, and we are going to throw this up on the only thing I didn't put in the messages is our YouTube channel, Jerry Niesman, and I'll put this up there so you can watch us again and again. And that's it.
All right.
Drive home safe. I think we're all set, and pull over if it's raining too hard. Lord knows it's the summer season in Southwest Florida. You always freak me out with that.
It didn't look that bad.
It was storming here like crazy. Well, please drive home safe, and I will see you soon.
All right.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm going to stand here like this and like use my hands to disconnect us, but I always hate when I'm like, I have like, what is it? A resting bee face? When I'm like, let's try and figure out how to end this meeting. So I'm going to click end and try and finish it all out. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Jerry, thank you for all the information. I had a great time doing the research for it today, and I'm going to send you a link to this place as soon as I get off of here. Anything else you want to add? Goodbye, everybody.
No, that's it. See you later. Thanks, everybody.
About it with us. Thanks for joining us. Talk about it Tuesday. Next week, market report.